Jai Hind viewers, welcome back to another panel discussion. And over here today we are talking about the ESG framework. Environmental, social and governance framework. It is used to assess an organization's business practices and performance on various sustainability and ethical issues. We have got two very eminent panelists with us. We have with us Lieutenant General Dr. Anil Kapoor, AVSM VSM, who served as Director General Electronics and Mechanical Engineers and Director General Information Systems. A chartered engineer, he was awarded the Eminent Engineer Award 2020 by Institution of Engineers. He is a professor of practice at IIT Tirupati and also a board member in their Innovation Hub. He writes and speaks on emerging technologies like C7 ISR and AI in many publications and platforms. And we also have with us Brigadier YVR Vijay, who served in the Corps of Electronics and Mechanical Engineers, where he was Chief Managing Director of an Army base workshop. After retirement from the Indian Army, he entered the renewable energy sector, where he was a COO of Enercon India Limited and subsequently the COO of Suzlon Global Services Limited. He is now a subject matter consultant on renewable energy to Boston Consultancy Group, McKinsey, GLG, GuidePoint, Alpha Sites, and Third Bridge. He is also running, and he is the person who is leading his own consultancy group called StatMRO, which is available at statmro.com. And General Anil Kapoor is also one of the directors in StatMRO. So the first question goes to General Anil. How can businesses effectively integrate environmental, social, and governance factors into their decision-making processes to drive sustainability and long-term value creation? General Kapoor, please.
Thank you for this question. It's a great question. Actually, today, when we look at the business practices, there are two very vocal things that stand out. The first is that whatever can be precisely defined can be very accurately designed and developed. So that's the first dictum I'd like to say, which defines the way things are. And the second is that capability takes time to develop. Intentions can change anytime. And if we look at these two statements, I think it's a clarion call that has to be taken by all industries when we look at a future trajectory. Industries must think long term. And in today's times, when you look at long term, it means trying to harness the power of technology, which is on the gallop. Now, let me qualify this statement. When we look at technology today, it's a huge enabler. And the ecosystem is actually can be so designed and developed that if you are able to identify your future course of action, you will be able to design a methodology around it. And since you asked as to what business practices, what are the best business practices that could be incorporated, I would say first is a philosophical issue, wherein the industries must realize that it is in their interest and in the interest of the ESG to enhance their technical thresholds regularly, to upgrade their infrastructure and modernize themselves with time as a continuum, to look at the fact that when they engage with the customers, I think they must realize what are the future needs of the customer. And when I say customer, it comprises environmental issues as well. And all the environmental issues, as you look at them today, uh, it goes to as low as the carbon footprint, as good as the GHG emissions from their factory premises itself. And the products they make, are they environmentally safe? Are they zero emission? I think those are some of the areas which must become ethical issues. To my mind, today industry must take ownership of the fact that environment is very much their concern. And it is just not a return on investment. It is a return on investment for a safe environment. The second aspect, when we look at the societal aspects, today there are a large number of unmet needs. We have a huge strata from have-nots to haves, even within the society. And therefore, we need to look at this very, very closely. I think to give an example, some time back, Tata's came up with the Nano. And they targeted those who would only aspire to have a car but couldn't own it. And therefore, that is one very great example of how they brought down the cost to give a car at 1 lakh rupees when a normal car, even Maruti, would cost you about 3 lakhs, almost 3 times that cost. So this kind of a maybe clarion call or a vision, if it can be shown by the industry, I think they can do a great work when it comes to societal issues. And governance, in any case, I'm sure, if you're focused on looking at a long-term view, if you have a long-term view, if you have the ecosystem for a long-term view, it'll work well for you. And the last point I'd like to say is that today on the board of most of the industries, the board of directors I'm talking about, ESG is a very, very important committee. And ESG is a very, very important issue that they have. To my mind, time has come that every industry must have on their board a chief technology board member, a board member who understands the bandwidth of technology and what it can do. And at every point in time audits the ESG from a point of view of making it more safe, more benign, and more futuristic. And therefore, I'd like to introduce a term here, which I call the agile organizations. I'm looking at organizations embracing a agile triad. And the triad comprises the people it has, that means the professionals, the teams that they build around various projects and programs that they do, and the organization by itself. I think all of them need to embrace agile. And as we move ahead, I will qualify this statement further as to what do I mean by agile and how it could get embraced by organizations. Thank you. Back to you, sir.
Thank you, Anil, for that. Brig YVR Vijay, your response on the same question, please.
Yeah. Jain viewers. Now, typically, any company which comes up, it has in its aim that my company should survive long. It should have a long-term sustainability. It must have an impeccable reputation. There should be a certain pride and brand name which is there in a company. And it should also, of course, the main aim being to earn money, it should have strong financial performance. Now, the whole concept of ESG came up on what do we do to ensure a company has long-term sustainability, a high reputation, a great brand image, and strong financial performance. And based on this, the concept of ESG came up in the world, and some criteria were evolved to help investors and people who are observing evaluate companies based on these factors. Factors which look at their ethics, look at their sustainability and governance related practices. So basically, E stands for environmental. It focuses on how the company's operations impact the natural environment. S is social. How does the company manage relationships with its employees, suppliers, customers, and communities? G is governance. So it looks at the company's leadership. How is its audit? What is its board like? What are its internal controls? How does it look after the shareholders? And there are various factors by which you can evaluate the governance. So ESG criteria has been evolved, which helps investor evaluate companies based on these practices. So typically you will find that under E, factors which see how friendly to the environment you are. Things like carbon emissions, your energy efficiency, how good are you with using water, what is your waste management, are you having an adverse or a positive biodiversity impact. On S, you will look at various factors like what is your employee diversity and inclusion, what is the percentage of females working in organization, or people who are physically challenged working in organization. Are you adhering to the labor standards and ethics? How good are you in community engagement? What is your CSR policy like? What is your satisfaction that you are evaluating with your customers? How ethical are you with handling data? And when it comes to governance, there are scoring factors like what is the diversity in your board composition? How is your audit committee independent? Are your auditors truly independent? What is your anti-corruption policies? What are your shareholders' rights? So if you look at all these, this tells us exactly how businesses effectively can integrate ESG factors into their decision-making processes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Brigadier Vijay, for that response. And actually, you mentioned shareholders, and that brings me to the next question. Because investors are also looking at these aspects when they look at a company. So my next question is, what role do investors play in advancing ESG principles? And how can companies communicate their ESG performance transparently to attract responsible investment? General Kapoor, please.